Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Vemma Trader webinar. Tonight, we'll be talking about a newly released trading document, Vemma's Bad Habits Checklist. See, being a trader is loads of fun. Vemma was built to not only make the trading process so much easier, but also help you analyze your trades and identify where you're making mistakes. Once you've identified the mistakes you're making, you can work towards stopping yourself from making the mistake in the first place, which leads to a higher win rate and and then you get to see what all traders want to see, which is your equity curve going up and to the right. See, thanks to Vemma's built-in journaling and tagging systems over all of your trading history, identifying your bad habits has been made far easier than it was before. Now, taking us through this evening's webinar is a man who, when approached about joining the Vemma team, said, "Mate, I don't only want to be assisting in helping make the product. It's really important to me that I also get to help others with their trading as well." Whoa, how do you say no to that? He's been a trader for the last 6 years and trading professionally for the last 4. He made time to get himself a very schmicko haircut done today, and it looks fantastic, about as good as your Mo does. A man who I have the pleasure of working with every day as a workmate, but more recently, very proudly call me mate. I'm talking, of course, about Mr. Rhys Mugavin. Now, if you have any questions as we go, please put them into the chat or into the Q&A panel. I'll be answering the questions as we go through the chat and Q&A, but Rhys will also field an open Q&A at the end, and we'll unmute you to ask you questions as we go, at the end, I should say. Rhys, over to you, mate.
Okay, so I'll intro you, Richard. I'll intro you, Richard, just in case anyone doesn't know. So Richard actually is the founder of Vemma. And one of our leading developers and the chief ninja. So he really runs the show, and he has been instrumental in not only starting Vemma, obviously as a founder, but also just some of my own personal growth. I've really got to thank you for a lot. I was talking about it in Discord today. Someone was complimenting the production quality of the Vemma YouTube videos, and that was actually how Richard and I met. Was he sent me a message out of the blue, instructing me how I could be doing my own YouTube videos better. So it's been a really great journey, but you guys want to talk about the bad habits checklist. So first off, what is a bad habits checklist? Well, it's pretty simple. It's just sort of a table with common trading issues, and then you count how often they occur. So it's really, really simple. You can have it on paper. You can use a spreadsheet. It's however you want to do it, but it's a pretty simple concept. Why is it something worth implementing is the really important question. So where a bad habits checklist comes in really handy is identifying repeated mistakes that you're making in your trading. So if you're consistently, let's say, not using a stop loss, right? That's a really big issue, but you might not realize how much you're doing it until you start really recording how often it happens. That's where a bad habits checklist comes in really handy. You can track how often you're making those mistakes, and then you can use that knowledge to alter your trade plan, which can increase your profitability in the market. So if you realize you're making a mistake that's costing you money consistently, you really want to eliminate that mistake as quickly as you can, and that's where a bad habits checklist comes in really handy. So how to use one? Pretty simple again. You put in things that you find are bad habits that you're using. So in that left column that we have down here, you can customize these. Okay, my mouse highlighter doesn't work, but that's all right. You can see that there anyway. You put in the bad habits that you are dealing with, and then as you go on and you review your trades, you just put a mark in the box each time you make that mistake. So you can see how consistently you're making that mistake. This one here, you can see you did not close your position when there was a close below your manual stop 6 times. You're constantly making that mistake. It's a really good idea to work on that and eliminate it. So you can see once you hit a count of 6 or fewer, it's time to put rules in place in your trade plan to ensure you don't repeat these mistakes in your future trades. And the whole point of that is to increase your profitability, right? That's the main reason most people trade. Some do just for fun, but really at the end of the day, it's about being a profitable trader. A bad habits checklist is a really, really useful tool to increase your profitability in the markets. So how does a bad habits checklist come into play in Vemma? Well, if any of you guys have used Vemma, you'd be familiar with our tagging system. So tags are, in my opinion, probably the most powerful thing built into Vemma, but certainly top 3 if you don't think it's the number 1. What the tags are is they're ways you can, I was going to say tag your trades, so that's kind of inbuilt, but they're ways that you can categorize your trades based on specific tags, and then later on you can analyze those. So you can essentially use the bad habits checklist to construct tags that you will then tag on trades each time you do them to build up your bad habits checklist. Because Vemma also tracks your profit and loss over those trades, you can see exactly what those bad habits are costing you. I'll show you guys that in a second. So how do you want to track your bad habits in VemaTrader? There's a few different options when you're tagging trades. So you can actually tag trades on setup initially. So that's what we're talking about here. In my opinion, you really shouldn't be tagging bad habits on setup because you haven't created the trade yet. So if you're noticing there's a bad habit going on before you even enter the trade, best thing to do is just not enter that trade. You've already identified there's a bad habit. That said, that's easy in practice, right? In theory, but a lot of the time, and this is going for me as well, a lot of the time when you're actually trading, that discipline might not be there, right? There's times that I'll FOMO into a trade. There's times that I'll go, okay, like this isn't quite what I should be doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. I've just got a good feeling about this trade, right? I still make mistakes. I've been trading for 3 years, still make these mistakes. I think the best thing you can do, if you can't stop yourself from making this mistake for whatever reason, is to at least tag it, because you might find it's not a mistake. You might tag this, 10 times. Let's say it was counter trend trading. I might tag that 10 times and go, actually, I'm really good at counter trend trading, but I keep thinking I shouldn't be doing it. It's turning out to not be a bad habit. So I think even though you shouldn't be doing these things, you should just not enter the trade in the first place. If you are going to enter the trade, at least try and get something from it. At least try and track some data. You can at least make it useful in some way then. I'd also recommend, if you're going to do it and you've got that feeling that you shouldn't be doing it, drop your risk management. At least halve it. If you can go down to 10%, even better. Or use a paper trade. Vema's got paper trading as well. So those are all great alternatives if you do have a feeling you're doing something you shouldn't be on setup. But these are a few examples of tags that you might use on setup that are sort of bad habits. So for me, for a while, I had a rule of not taking a trade if I had less than 6 hours sleep. So that's something that I find useful to tag, because I found that I was trading really badly when I was having less than 6 hours sleep. That was through a bad habits checklist. So if I was placing a trade at setup and realized that I'd had 4 hours sleep last night and I still really wanted to place this trade, at least I can tag that and I consistently see how I've been performing with those things. Feeling FOMO is another one. Breaking my trade plan rules. Again, if you're identifying you're doing that before you're entering, probably just stop. But if you're still going to do it, at least tag it so you know. Risk reward below your minimum. Vema can help you with that because it literally blocks you from entering that trade. But if you delete your risk reward, if you make it 0, the minimum risk reward condition, you'll still be able to get into that position. You've broken your rules. Counter trend trading and trading because bored. That's one that I have been guilty of in the past. Just looking for something to do. I'll go and place trades because hopefully I'll make some money. It's a bit of excitement. Not a good time to be trading. So that's definitely one that I have tagged in the past. Excuse me. So the second option for tagging trades in Vema is during a trade. So Vema allows you to manage your positions. You can move your stop loss, you can move your take profit. You can also add tags and add comments to your journal and screenshots so that you can really see what you were thinking at different times during the trade. So this section is for things that you might notice going on while you're managing a position. A big one is checking the dollar value of your profit and loss mid-trade. There's a reason Vema doesn't show it, and that's because it really can muck around with your head, right? FTX has been bad to me in the past because they show the exact dollar value of some of my positions, and I'll sit there going, oh, I'm up. Like there's my expenses for the month paid. If I just cash out now, there's my expenses for the month paid. Like I should just get out. But then I'm like, oh, that's a lot of money, but my take profit's twice as far, right? If it just goes there, I've got 2 months paid. So as soon as you start seeing that dollar value, it's really hard to separate that from the trade, and you start thinking about what you can do with that money. You might be in the red, a couple $100 going, there's my rent. I've just already lost my rent. I don't want to lose even more. And you might not be talking hundreds. You might be talking 50. You might be talking a few dollars, but seeing the actual dollar value of your position can really muck around with your head mid-trade. And so if you're going to check that on FTX and then come back to Vema, I'd be putting a tag in saying, I checked that and it's messing with my head. Another one is not using a stop loss. Won't be an issue on Vema because you cannot trade without a stop loss on Vema. But if you are just going to use the bad habits checklist, on paper or some other way, and you're not trading with Vema, then you can potentially be in trades without a stop loss. That's something I would be tracking really, really quickly because it's definitely not something you want to be doing in your trading. Incorrect position sizing. That's one that I'll show you guys in a sec with the analyze screen, but that can lead to really, really big losses if you are in a trade and realize that you've done your position sizing wrong. And that can happen in Vema, right? Vema does your position sizing for you, but you might decide to break your rules on how much of your account you're risking on a specific trade. Breaking your trade plan rules again, you might not realize you're doing it at the start, and then you might be halfway through a trade and go, oh, I actually am counter trend trading. I didn't realize that when I set this trade up. Feeling greedy, so extending your take profit, or feeling nervous, so tightening your stop loss really close to price. Both those things you might do mid-trade, and closing below your manual stop, but not exiting the position. That's another one that I use a little bit. In terms of the feeling nervous and feeling greedy, I'm a big fan of tagging how you feel. Even if it's not specifically a bad habit, I've spoken about it in the market scans before at times where I feel pressure to perform. When I'm doing those market scans or those Bitcoin analysis videos, I want to find trades for you guys. There might not be any trades there. That's part of trading. Sometimes there's not a trade. A lot of the time, well, not a lot, but there have been times I've felt that pressure to perform and question, am I just forcing trades so I've got a trade to show? That's a bad habit. If I am doing that, that's a bad habit. So tagging those sorts of things can be really, really valuable. That is it for the mid-trade section. So in terms of after your trade, I think this is the key. I think this is really where the bad habits checklist shines. And a big part of why I think this is where it's so useful is this is where you're more objective, right? Your trader has exited. You're not feeling excited about putting a trade on when you're starting. You're not in the middle of a trade going, oh, I'm losing, or oh, I'm doing really well, and feeling those emotions one way or the other. The trade is over. Hopefully you're not feeling bad because you've done something dumb. Hopefully, you've given yourself the distance to look at it objectively, and then you can really see, did you stick to your rules or did you have some bad habits in this trade? So some of the tags that you might use at this point are things like broke your trade plan rules, right? There's a reason that features at all three sections because you might not notice it until the end. It's one of the most important ones in my opinion. The close below manual stop, we've spoken about that. Stop loss moved too early. So you might have moved your stop loss really, really early in the piece, and then prices come down, hit your entry. Let's say you move to entry, right? That's a really common thing. People will move their stop loss to entry to sort of avoid losses. You might move it too early, price comes back down, double bottoms on your entry, continues to head up. If you hadn't moved your stop, you might have had a really good trade. Because you moved your stop too early, you might have lost or just broken even on that position. Your stop loss being too tight, right? Again, that's something you can only tell after the trade plays out because mid-trade, it hasn't hit your stop loss yet. You don't know. But after the trade's played out, you might see, wow, my stop loss was really tight there. One thing here that I'm a really big fan of is looking at your trade on exit just to see what you think happened, but also coming back to it, say, it depends on the time frame you're trading, but say you're trading 4 hours, coming back to it like a week later and seeing, okay, here's what happened even after I got stopped out. Because if you've just been wicked out, you might go, okay, my stop loss was fine where it was. You come back a week later and you see, okay, price only wicked me out. It kept going up from there. If I just had a bit of a larger stop loss, I would have been fine. But you can't really tell that until a little while after you've actually exited the position. So that's a big tip that I'd give you guys is look at your trades when they close, because just to see what happened, look at them at a specific period of time after to get some idea of what the market did after you exited the position. Another bad habit that I've been guilty of in the past is targets being way too aggressive. I love shooting for like 10 to 1s, and I have hit some, but for the amount I've shot for, I have hit very, very few. So targets being too aggressive, it can definitely cost you money. If you're good at managing your stop loss, it might not be that big of an issue, but it's definitely something you want to pay attention to. If you're consistently falling short of your take profit, maybe it's a good idea to really take profit in. Ignoring changes in market structure. So let's say you're in a long and you see the market's gone bearish while you're in that position and you don't get out, that's potentially going to be a bad habit that you want to be tracking. Not moving your stop loss to manage a trade is one. So let's say that you leave your stop loss right down the bottom, price gets almost to your TP and you haven't moved your stop loss. If it's part of your trade plan, it might not be, but if you haven't moved your stop loss at that point, price comes all the way back down and you go, I should have moved my stop loss. I should have locked in some of that profit. That's a bad habit I've been guilty of in the past for sure. And it's one that really, really sucks because you watch those profits evaporate. It's not a good feeling. If you can keep tracking that habit, realize you're doing it commonly, you can help eliminate it. Entering too early, entering too late, again, both ones that are really, really good for improving your profitability. If you're entering too early, you might be able to get a better entry, really increase your risk to reward. You're entering too late, you might be getting stopped out more because you've missed the move or your risk to reward is really, really low on those positions. And counter trend trading is the last one there. So why I'm such a big fan of using the bad habits checklist within Vemma is that it shows you the actual consequences of those mistakes. So you can see here, I went back through some of my trades recently, reviewed a few. Now this is on one of my test accounts, so don't go thinking I'm actually risking tons of my account on two trades. So if you're looking at the account risk there, I've lost 50% of my account on 2 trades. That is a really, really bad habit, right? You can see that moving my stop loss too early and counter trend trading have cost me nowhere near as much. Even though I've had 12 trades over the 2 of those, they've cost me, let's call that 10%. This one, just using bad risk management, which is too much account risk, has cost me 50% of my account in 2 trades. So I can see straight away I'm not going to let that get to 6 on my bad habits checklist. That's at 2. That's cost me a fortune. I'm cutting that out straight away. I really, really like the way that Vemma does show you the actual losses that these bad habits are costing you, because I've never had access to this before. My old bad habits checklist is essentially what you guys will be getting with the spreadsheet. It just showed me how often I was making a mistake. It's really easy to ignore it when you've made the mistake a couple of times, but when you see the actual losses that mistake is costing you, it really, really stings. And, you know, it's not just the losses. So when I looked at the move stop losses too early, I can go in and see, okay, I moved my stop loss too early and I've lost a little bit, but potentially if I hadn't moved my stop loss that early, what would I have gained? I might be up 10% of those 5 trades, right? So it's really, really cool to be able to really see the results of those bad habits. It really helps you just want to eliminate them, and wanting to eliminate them is the first step to getting rid of them and improving your profitability. So that's the last step, right? Once you know you have this bad habit and you want to work on changing it, the last thing to do is tweak your trade plan. You want to put rules in place in your trade plan to stop you from doing whatever your bad habit is. For me, the first really bad habit that I consistently identified was that trading off less than 6 hours sleep. And so what I did, made a rule, I don't trade off less than 6 hours sleep, immediately saw results. Immediately my profitability went up. I was having way less losses than what I've had been previously. It was a huge, huge change for me, and a really simple tweak, right? A really, really simple tweak. I didn't have to get better at trading. Didn't have to increase my account size. All I had to do was stop trading off less than 6 hours sleep, and all of a sudden I was more profitable. These things, sometimes they're really, really small habits. They can have huge impacts. Once you can eliminate them, you can really, really make a difference to your bottom line. And at the end of the day, that's sort of what we're all here for, is to increase our bottom line with our trading accounts. So it's really important to identify these bad habits, see the impact on their profitability, and then alter the rules in your trade plan to eliminate them. So if you guys have any bad habits you know of and you're not sure how to eliminate them, chuck them in the chat, right? I'll try and think of ways to, I mean, the obvious answer is put a rule in your trade plan about it. Sometimes it's harder than that. Sometimes it's something complicated. Sometimes it might take some tweaking. And one of the unfortunate things is, even though you might change the rules of your trade plan, you won't necessarily always stick to it. You should, you may not. Sometimes there's other things, you know, I've heard of people putting punishments in place where they know if they break that rule of their trade plan, they have to tell a certain person, they have to donate, you know, $500 to a charity, whatever it might be. However you have to enforce these rules on yourself, do it. It's worth it. If you identify these bad habits, do what you can to eliminate them. So that's it from me. You guys got any questions, any thoughts, anything you want to talk about?
There's nothing yet in the chat, Rhys, but I've got a few questions for you for my own personal trading now.
Yep.
So what made you said earlier your first bad habit that you decided to start tracking was about your less than 6 hours sleep.
Yeah.
How long had you been trading with like that before you said, what am I doing? I should really track this as a bad habit?
Ages. I reckon it was like 18 months. It was a really, really long time before I realized that was such an issue for me.
Yeah, wow. And then after you did that, was it like, how did you come up with the whole bad habits checklist? I'm assuming that you kind of went like, hey, that worked for that. I should track a few more different things.
I wish I could say that's how I came up with it. The true story is, Donnie mentioned it one time and I was like, that's a cool idea. And then I think he showed me one. I think either he had one set up or he just showed me like the general idea. And I was like, I love that. So I took that and I ran with it. I was actually thinking, I was looking at the bad habits checklist we've done up, and I was thinking about putting at the bottom, like, ripped off of Donnie Cole or something. Because yeah, it was definitely him who introduced me to the concept of the bad habits checklist.
Awesome, cool stuff. Let's see, is there a limit to the number of tags that you can put on a setup?
No, so you can tag away. I think I haven't actually counted the most that I've had on a single setup, but I reckon I would have had probably 15 on certain setups, and that would have been on setup. So potentially by the time I was done with the trade, when I took, because I will tag how I manage my stop loss a lot of the time, I could have been up around probably not quite 20, but probably 18 potentially. There's definitely no limit in terms of the tags you can put on.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Mark Ellaby has just put on the chat, I had a bad habit of going down timeframes until I forced a trade.
Yeah, Mark, like that's one that I used to be a shocker for it. I remember when I first sort of started to understand position sizing and risk management, and I realized that if you hit a 2-to-1 with 1% account risk, it doesn't matter what the percentage on the chart is. So it only matters what you're risking on that account and what your risk to reward is. And when I realized that, I went, hang on, let's say that a 2-to-1 trade takes, on average 10 candles to play out. Why would I trade that on the 4 hours where that's going to take 40 hours when I can trade that on the 1 minute and it's going to take 10 minutes? And if I can consistently make money, I'm going to make, in the 40-hour period that I would have made that 1 2-to-1, I could potentially make 50 2-to-1s on the 1 minute and make 50 times as much money. So I was like, I'm a genius. Like, this is going to be fantastic. And then I found out that I was not as good at scalping as I was at trading the 4 hours. So that is definitely something that I've dealt with. And it's a common one, right? I think everyone has a little bit of a degenerate in them. I used to really, really have that degenerate in me. I've sort of eased off a lot in the last couple of years. So it's definitely a common one. In terms of, obviously the first thing to do is start tracking it, right? If you notice that as soon as especially if you can notice when you get down to the 15 minutes, you're only going there because you want to force a trade, perfect time to stop. But if you can't stop yourself, right? Because sometimes it's not that easy, then again, I would be dropping risk management. I would absolutely be tagging it and saying, hey, going to low, you could call the tag low time frame hunting or, whatever you want to call it. But I would absolutely be tagging that on those trades. And I would be recommending to paper trade or at least drop the risk. For me, what I've found is like paper trading doesn't quite satisfy that itch sometimes. So 10% account risk, at least I'm like, it's still real money. And that's only on a pretty small account because it's like on my test account as well. So yeah, if I really feel the itch to live trade and I can't pull my head in enough and I don't really have the discipline at the time to avoid it, I just do what I can to at least mitigate it and always tag it. So at least I can track that and sort of measure those bad habits.
Yeah, fair enough. I was a data analyst for several years, and it was the saying was crap data in, crap data out. If you don't track it, how are you going to give anything about how are you going to get any information about it?
Yeah, 100%. It's honestly one of my favorite things about Vema is being able to just straight up paper trade stuff and test a hell lot of different things and actually get useful data out of it. Because I've had all these ideas of things that I've wanted to test for years, but I just haven't gone back to back testing because it takes too long or whatever reason. And it's so handy to be able to do it so quickly through Vema. So
nice, man. Nice. Can you add tags? Like, I know that the general flow of Vema is you do your visualize, and as you're doing your visualize, you're doing the journaling, and you can put tags in it at that point. Can you add tags against the trade while it's in progress or once it's finished?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. So at any point in the trade's life, you can add tags. As soon as you've created that setup, or you can create it, as you're setting it up, you can add tags then. But then once you've created it, even if the trade hasn't entered, even if it's just monitoring, you can add tags then. Once you're in the position and once you've closed the position, even once you've moved it off your dashboard into your trade history, you can go there and you can go there and add tags within that section as well.
Oh, I never thought of that. My one is I've gone. I'm good at bouncing according to my my analysis. My live account says, Richard, you're pretty good at bouncing, but if you do crosses, you suck. And what I haven't really, you've just made me think maybe I could go and look at that. I could go to that analysis card, view all the trades that are about the cross, and I could look at the last 20 or so and just kind of look at them and say, right, what was I doing wrong on all of these things, and tag them and then do further analysis over it.
100%. That's one of my favorite things about that trade review system. And especially like in the analyze section that you can, in fact, what I'll do is I'll bring up Vema. I'll just do it on another screen first, but that you can group the trades by those tags and then look at the individual trades in that tag system. So if we look at one for me, so let's say that I want to look at my counter trend trades, right? I can come in here and I can see all 7 of those trades, how they played out, and I can come in and actually go, okay, was there anything else going on in these positions? Was there something else, that I could have done? Could I have, for one, just not taken them because they're all pretty solid losses. But, is there something I missed? Is there something I could have done differently? It's a really, really cool way to do it. And so all you have to do is come into the view trade section, go into the trade, head to your journal, and you can add those tags. I've got my counter trend trading there. I can add whatever other tags I notice of things that are going on.
Yeah, nice. That's a cool one, because then it's not just, well, crap data in, crap data out, the general saying. But now you can say, I guess, dodgily, crap data in, whoops, I didn't do it. But now you can actually go back and fix it retroactively.
100%.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
nice.
absolutely. You can look at these things after. And one of my favorite things, that I find really, really useful is even if you don't tag a single thing, I think Vemma automatically tags about 14 different things. So
yeah, it's got loads.
even if you can't be bothered tagging things, you're at least still getting your direction. You're at least still getting your bounce or your cross strategy, whether you use conditions, what the symbol was. You're at least still getting a fair bit of data in those. And you can see, right? These are some of my test trades I haven't put any confidence on. I was just, really quickly putting things on, trying different things out. So it's really, really handy to know, even if I am lazy on the day, I can come back and still add data to this trade and actually get some value out of it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool one. That's cool one. All right. I got, who's got in the chat there? Just more people agreeing. Yeah, I've traded them. So you had a whole bunch of examples in your slide there of different tags. Example bad habits, which is really cool. Do we have a document on our support site about here's some example bad habits, or here's some example tags that you could use to track not only bad habits, but anything that you're trading in Vemma?
We don't, not on the support site. So that's actually a really good point, right? Because we do have a bad habits checklist that you guys can access. So if you head to vemmatrader.com, go into resources, you'll see bad habits checklist, or you can literally just scan this. It'll take you straight to the page. You just have to fill out a quick little form and then you'll get access to the bad habits checklist. That's a really good idea though, is to put in the support site a tagging library, essentially. So as people think of cool different tags, cool different bad habits, they can put them in there and everyone can look at it and go, oh, that's a really good idea. Like someone recently was tagging the time of day, I think based on, morning, noon, afternoon, evening, and I think that was it. I think that's put into 4. That's not something that I tagged myself. And I was like, that's actually a really cool idea. Maybe I suck at trading in the morning and tagging in the evening, I'd find I'm doing really well. So I think that's a really good idea to put something on the support library. And we can have separate sections, right? We could have a bad habits section of tags, and then we could have, other useful tags. I'm going to add a note for myself right now about that.
James Lynch has just written, I feel like my tags are limited. So that would be really, really helpful.
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? Sometimes you don't even know what to tag. And that's something that I've definitely, I think I'm lucky that I have a couple of years experience and sort of have some idea of what has worked for me in the past, but also I'm pretty wary of the fact that I'm really, how do I say this? Like, you only know what you know. And so there's going to be huge gaps, even in my trading, that I'm missing. If I'm not getting feedback or seeing how other people are tagging things, there's really no way for me to start, getting access to those gaps unless I just have an epiphany out of nowhere, which, it can happen, but it's not something you want to rely on. So I think definitely having a library where you can look at what other people are tagging. The Discord's really good for that. I've learned a lot from the Discord just in terms of what other people are doing, even, entry strategies, different things. The Discord is really, really handy for that. But I think, something on the support site as well that you can just go and have a look and say, hey, what should I be tagging or whatever it might be, and just get some inspiration from there. I think that's a really good idea.
Cool, man. Cool. We'll talk more about that one tomorrow. Just throwing work your way now. The correct answer was yes, we already have it there. Fun. So I like, I got to say, your call out there of learning lots from the community. Man, I've learned heaps of stuff from our Discord channel as well. To everyone who's posting in there, thank you so much. Not only are we just giving you a cool product, man, we want to learn from you to get better ourselves. We're traders too. All right, and emojis as tags.
Yeah.
You laugh about that, James, but you actually can do it.
That's one of my favorites, is the emoji tags.
I think I might do an analysis tomorrow on how many people have used the bee's dick. Fun. All right, cool. So can you go back one slide for a second?
Yep.
Where you've got some example tags. Do you prefix? I notice that you don't prefix your tags there. Like, one of the things I do is I get lost in the tags that I use. So go back another slide or two. Maybe one more.
One more?
There we go. Like someone, I was doing one of the Q&As and someone was like, how do you remember which tags you've got? Like, was it descending triangle? Was it just triangle? Was it wedge? And oh, I can't remember what I called it before. So what I've started to do is prefix my tags. So if it's a bad habits for me, I type in bad habits and then have whatever the name is. So that way, when I'm doing the trade review, I can just type in bad habit and it goes, here is all of your bad habits one, because it does the pre-filling.
Yeah.
It does the listing. And then I can put strategy type or just strategy in front, or pattern, because then it's a pattern, and then this is the type of pattern. Do you ever find that you forget these, or no, you've just used them so long that like this is engraved into your head that this is what I did wrong?
No, so how I'll actually do it, I feel embarrassed now because I'm like, this is kind of a dumb way of doing it when I compare it to your way. So, but anyway, so how I do it is I literally just pull up the tag. So when you click in the tag section, you get a list of the tags that you have used previously. I scroll through them and go, oh yeah, that applies here. Oh, that applies here. That applies here. So that way I might miss one, but I'm probably not going to forget any because I am going through them. Obviously, you know, eventually my tag library is probably going to get to the point that I will have to come up with a better system because it's just going to be too long. Potentially, it's not there yet. I mean, it takes, you know, say 15, 20 seconds per trade to just scroll through and go, yep, that, yep, that, yep, that. But yeah, there's probably a better way to categorize it. I think doing it your way is a really good way to do it.
Nice, man. Nice. Let's
see. Edit tags, James? So James, you can edit tags during a trade. Like, you know, you can delete them, you can remove them at any stage of the tag's life. But in terms of at the account level, like say, you know, I think I used the wrong 2. I think it's only supposed to be a single O here.
That would be 2 there.
Is that 2? Oh, then no, that's fine. But say I had put a spelling mistake in. Currently, you can't edit that tag. So the best thing to do would be just delete that tag off that trade and then put in one that's spelled properly.
Or you could send an email to support@vematrader.com and say which tag is the silly one you've put in there and which trade plans it should be taken off and what we should put in there instead. We can help you out with that.
Change that
if you could not do that mistake in the first place, that'd be great for us. But we can absolutely help you out if that's what you ever needed to do, James. All right. Hey, Rhys, thank you so much for tonight, man. There's no more in the chat or in the Q&A. We'll stick around just in case anyone's got anything else they want to add on, or if they would like to ask the question off the recording. That's perfectly fine. We'll stay around for a little bit. Other than that, Rhys, thank you so much, man. I know this has really had a big impact on my own trading. So thank you for that, man. This is great. And everyone else, I hope you have come along and learned quite a lot tonight and see how it can help your own trading. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Hope you got something out of it.